I want to talk about George Soros today because a great thing happened in the background while everybody's distracted by the virus panic. But first, I just want to say a few things about the virus panic because it's just escalating. Today, the WHO did in fact declare this a pandemic. There are so few deaths from this thing, far fewer deaths than from the normal flu every year. And yet they're treating it like a global emergency. Why? Because they want their next kind of fear extortion scheme. The climate thing really got the kids upset. Worked really well for them, although, it probably didn't have as much of a result as they wanted. Not to mention, hey, what about all us medical people? We can't get in on the climate change action. Give us something to get in on. So, okay, now we'll have pandemic action. Now we'll have global pandemic action for them. Fear-mongering for the medical industrial complex, right? I feel really sorry for any children, any teens growing up right now because it's just nonstop fear-mongering by the adults in the world who are supposed to be the ones who reassure them and keep them calm, but not anymore. Not anymore. These adults that I see around me that are stoking the panic are children, and they're kind of abusive towards younger children by keeping up this fear-mongering. It's just insane. One last thing I want to point out before I move on to George Soros is all of you people out there in the mainstream media, in government, in local councils, wherever you are, whatever your podium is, you guys pushing absolute panic and asking for all new kinds of measures to be brought in. Asking us to have virtual meetings instead of going face-to-face with our families. Vilifying people who shake hands. Asking for extra screening for this and that. Demanding money be put here. Demanding quarantines be put there. Demanding paid time off for people who are tested positive for the virus. All of you people make me ill because far fewer people have even been diagnosed with this or have died from this than children who are taken from their homes and disappear every year. And where are your demands that we do something about that? Hey, where have you said, well, we're just going to need to clamp down on online, pedophilia promotion? You don't say that ever, do you? You don't say we need task forces in cities to make sure that the kids are okay. You don't say let's go back and rescreen all the teachers and all the clergy and all the people who work at CPS. Let's go back, let's go look at their backgrounds because there's hundreds of thousands of kids go missing every year. We need to figure that out. We need to stop that problem. I never have ever heard an official person say anything like that. So you guys are hypocrites. If you can't make money off it, you're not interested in it. And you certainly really are not interested in the well-being of regular schmucks like me or my children or anybody's children for that matter. So you're a bunch of lying, cowardly, money-grubbing hypocrites. So enough from you. Got that off my chest. All right. That possibly wasn't the most eloquent thing I've ever said, but I've really had it. None of them want to protect the kids, but give them a chance to make money by stoking fear and they're all over it. Let's move on to what I said was going to be the real subject of this video, which is George Soros. George Soros and his influence on the European Court of Human Rights has come under scrutiny in a pretty big way. You may not have heard about it because nobody's heard about anything except hockey stick charts. There they go with their hockey stick charts again, just like they did with climate change. Climate change has a hockey stick chart, and now coronavirus has a hockey stick chart. It's really interesting that the people who don't believe the hockey stick climate chart are all over this coronavirus hockey stick chart, right? All right, here's the story. RT broke this. RT is where I saw it first. Credibility of European Court of Human Rights lies in ruins after judges' links to Soros revealed. A study by the European Center for Law and Justice in Strasbourg has revealed several conflicts of interest between judges at the European Court of Human Rights and NGOs funded by George Soros. The study has found that out of the 100 judges who have served on the bench of the European Court of Human Rights in the period from 2009 to 2019, nearly a quarter of them have strong links to George Soros's Open Society Foundation or to NGOs like Amnesty International and others which are funded by it. Human Rights Watch, for instance, has received $100 million from the Open Society Foundation since 2010. Some of the NGOs receive so much of their budget from Soros that they are, in effect, wholly owned subsidiaries of his foundation. We're going to get more into that in a minute. I'll probably pretty much just read chunks of the article to you. But first, let's just review what happened in the States with regards to George Soros. That also got swept under the rug because of virus panic. By the way, there's a new hashtag for that, and I love it. I did not come up with this. Some genius came up with this. I don't know who it is. Plandemic. Not pandemic. Plandemic. I love it. Okay. Back in December, Attorney General Barr was going around making the circuit, and he was talking about Soros-funded prosecutors and other politicians, other civil servants in the United States that are resulting in a lack of respect for law and order. I mean, Soros does tend to undermine law and order. That's his thing, as we'll see with the judges on this Court of Human Rights. It's a very, very big deal what Soros does by undermining law and order and the justice system. Obviously, it goes without saying. Here's an example of one of the places George Soros has put his money in the United States. He is backing Kim Foxx in her bid to stay the state's attorney in Illinois. He's given the group that's backing her $2 million. You know her from the Jussie Smollett thing. And there's all kinds of shenanigans that go along with that. I have done videos on, tons of people have done great videos on Kim Foxx and Jussie Smollett and the connections back to Cory Booker, Obama, Kamala Harris, Tina Chen, several NGOs. So Kim Foxx is under investigation for all of this. And of course, George Soros likes that. That's the kind of quality George Soros likes in a state's attorney, someone that turns a blind eye to certain corruption and really throws the book at George Soros's enemies. Here's another one. Left-wing billionaire George Soros scores wins in Virginia elections as opponents say race was bought. And this is a very common theme. George Soros puts money into NGOs or charities or PACs, political action committees, that are backing candidates who are corrupt, point blank, or who worked for him in the past, who he has a relationship with. That happens too. And that's really what happened on the European Court for Human Rights. Let's just have a quick look. The European Court of Human Rights is a really important body because whatever it decides trickles through all of Europe, and apparently it affects non-EU member states as well. So this thing has a lot of influence. Here's just a little history of the European Court of Human Rights, saying that it was established in 1959 and then it became permanent in 1998 with 47 member states. It says, after the Berlin Wall fell, many new states signed on. This led to a drastic increase in the number of cases before the court. A backlog ensued, prompting new regulations, and they enacted this thing called Protocol 14. Russia, by the way, flatly refused to endorse these new rules at the time. Protocol 14 amended the convention so that judges would be elected for a non-renewable term of 9 years. Amendments were also made so that a single judge could reject it says plainly inadmissible applications, while prior to this protocol, only a 3-judge committee could make the final decision. That's a big deal too. So one guy sitting off in a room somewhere can decide that a complaint is plainly inadmissible. Nobody's looking over his shoulder. There's no checks and balances on that. That pretty much ensures that challenges that go against the progressive doctrine will never see the light of day in this court. That's not justice in any way. The jurisdiction of the court extends to nearly all European states with the exception of Belarus and Vatican City, and then for some reason Kazakhstan. Jurisdiction extends to countries outside the European Union. There, it says it right there for you. Back to this European Center for Law and Justice that did this study on NGOs and the judges of the European Court of Human Rights that was just published. The links between the judges and the NGOs are substantial. They include working for years as members of the board of directors or executive council of these NGOs, having teaching posts at institutes funded by them, being salaried director of programs for the Open Society Foundations or NGO or associated NGOs, and undertaking other forms of paid work for them. There would not be anything wrong with judges having exercised a salaried activity for an NGO prior to becoming a judge if these same organizations were not themselves active as parties who bring cases to the ECHR, either as applicants themselves, as lawyers for applicants, or as third parties giving supposedly expert evidence, but in reality lobbying for a cause. And if those judges did not then hear those cases, a clear conflict of interest there. Indeed, the report's worst finding is that in 88 cases, judges sat on the bench ruling on cases brought to the court by NGOs they had previously worked for without declaring a conflict of interest and without withdrawing from hearing the cases. In one case, ruled on in 2018, 10 out of the 14 NGOs that had brought the case were funded by the Open Society Foundation, while 6 out of the 17 judges who heard the case themselves had links to the same Soros-funded group. What a racket! Changing the face of the whole of Europe and beyond by having activists come and work for your organization and then getting them jobs on the courts so that if anybody ever challenges the activist work that you do, you know already that the court will decide in your favor. Not only that, let's not forget how the law works, especially in Europe. New laws, rules, regulations, and standards are passed through the whole European community via court actions. So if you want to see a law changed in all of these countries, you strategically select cases to bring before the court. And then depending on how the court rules, your wish of the change will be implemented across Europe. This is why we have seen such a rapid breakdown of traditional Western values in Europe. One more thing. Because of the way international trade operates, and because of the internet, which is a global thing, the rulings of the European Court for Human Rights have effects and impacts across the globe. Back to the article. The judge's refusal to withdraw is a disgraceful professional failing which shows that Europe's supreme human rights body is not, in fact, independent, but is instead part of a veritable, quote, human rights industry, a pyramid of money and tight network of professional relationships, at the top of which sits George Soros with his billions. Non-governmental organizations are supposed to represent civil society, independent of states. In reality, a very large number of them are the creation of actors with no democratic legitimacy, like the Open Society Foundation. That's right, no democratic legitimacy. Who elected George Soros? What nation does he represent? The fact that this corrupt system has been able to flourish has several causes. The first is that Soros and the NGOs he finances dominate the human rights industry across the Balkans and in the Baltic states. Indeed, the report finds that the total spending of the Open Society Foundation in Europe, $90 million a year, actually exceeds the annual budget of the European Court of Human Rights. It's an argument I'm sorry, but it is an argument for limiting individual wealth hoarding. When you think of it, that's all they're doing. They're hoarding money so that they can wreak havoc like this. What good has come of it? Second, new procedures introduced in 2012 specifically provide for NGOs to take part in the selection procedure for judges at the European Court of Human Rights. These NGOs can propose candidates and they can lobby for their selection. They have done this on many occasions, as the report shows. In the case of Albania in 2018, for instance, 2 out of the 3 candidates were executives of the Open Society Foundation. One of them was elected. Finally, there is no requirement that people appointed to be judges at the ECHR have any judicial experience at all. Some 51 out of the 100 judges who have sat on the ECHR bench since 2009 had never been judges or magistrates before. Instead, they were very often human rights activists working for Soros or one of his front organizations. The result is that judges who sit on these bodies do not, in fact, behave as judges should. The role of the judge is to say what the law is, not to say what he or she thinks the law should be. Unfortunately, this is exactly what judges at the ECHR and at the new international tribunals do. In 1978, the ECHR proclaimed that the convention was, quote, a living instrument which must be interpreted in the light of present-day conditions, end quote, and that therefore its judges had the right to read new things into the convention instead of agreeing to be bound by it. Such judicial activism is a travesty of the rule of law. And there you have it. There is no law. Essentially, to me, it means there is no law. If the law is a living document that judges are expected to read new things into all the time, that just means that they can arbitrarily make rulings and nobody can possibly know whether or not they will be in breach of a law or found innocent of a breach when they go before the judge. How could you possibly know? The judge could come up with anything as you stand before him or her. That's what we're living through right now, an upending of law. They make it up as they go along. And when they talk about this rules-based world order, as opposed to a law framework, a legal framework for a world order, that's what they mean. That's what they mean. It's a massive, this is the real virus that we're facing. For example, in the Democratic conventions that they're holding right now to select the leader of the Democrat Party in the United States, Tulsi Gabbard, she is entitled by the rules as they were to speak in the debates, to be present at the debates, but they've changed the rules. The minute Tulsi Gabbard became in compliance with the rules to appear at the debate, the panel for the DNC changed the rules. So now she's disqualified again. That's basically what this whole court operates like. The whole court of human rights in Europe. Some countries like it. Pakistan likes it, even though Pakistan is not a member of this. They're not a member of the European community. But look at this ruling and look at the Pakistan Daily Times celebrating it. This is from October 2018. The European Court rules against desecration of Prophet Muhammad. PB, peace be upon him. That's what that stands for. Peace be upon him. It's supposed to be the European Court of Human Rights. Pakistan is celebrating the ruling. How does France feel about it? How does Germany feel about it? You know, how do the people of these nations in Europe feel about being subservient to Islamic law now? All thanks to the European Court of Human Rights. What precipitated this ruling, by the way? The court's decision comes after an Austrian national named Mrs. S. held 2 seminars in 2009 in which she committed blasphemy. Good for Pakistan and other Islamic nations. Not so great for Mrs. S. in Austria. Who knows what the blasphemy was? But is blasphemy a thing in Europe? Was it before? Imagine And that's George Soros. That's George Soros's people doing that. I'll put a link in the description box to this whole report so you can go read it if you like. But the RT article actually does a pretty good job of breaking down the main points. You know, there's a list of all the people and how they are tied to the Open Society Foundation or NGOs funded by Soros. And at the end of this list, I noticed something interesting. This phenomenon is not limited to members of the court. For example, Nils Muiznieks, Commissioner for Human Rights of the Council of Europe, was also Director of Programs for the Open Society in 2012. In 2009, he explained that the Open Society wishes to create a new man, Homo Sorosensus, a man of open society. Did you catch that? Homo Sorosensus, a new man made in the image of Soros. Whoa, that is creepy. I'll stop here, but you get the idea. This is just more evidence of Soros trying to take over the world like some kind of supervillain blocking out the sun. He wants everyone remade in his own image, Homo Sorosensus. The guy's a maniac, and it is through him and people like him and their billions of dollars that they pour into these so-called humanitarian organizations, that they pour into courts, the billions they pour into medical journals, the billions they pour into organizations that right now are giving us the supposed truth about coronavirus. All of these people are influenced by this system, Homo Sorosensus, the attempt to make us all into the image of the progressive God-man, George Soros. So, until these people start caring about the real life concerns of real life people, I just can't take them seriously. They drop everything and change everything and mobilize everyone for this dumb flu. But years pass and we still have an opioid crisis. We still have children going missing. We still have child sex trafficking. We still have homelessness. We still have vast income inequality. They don't care about people. They are simply trying to build their new world order. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that if you enjoyed the video, you will remember to give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, or please go over to BitChute. I will leave the link in the description box. That's my video backup channel. I also have a Twitter account where I'm very active, at 99freemind over on Twitter. That's my handle there. If you would like to say thank you to me for the work that I've already produced and encourage me to keep going, I have a paypal.me account where you can make a financial contribution. I can take any currency there. Or if you want to send me something through the regular mail, I can take USD or Canadian dollars. And that's I have a P.O. box set up, and the address for that is on my website, amazingpolly.net, on the contact page. Links for a bunch of stuff, including how to contact me, will be down below in the main comment or in the description box, usually both. And I don't know if you noticed, I've switched the background just a little bit. There's some blank spots, but there's some great new things back there. So thank you to everybody who's sent things along. I really appreciate it. Get a huge kick out of it. Until next time, peace out.